Okay, we're gonna begin. I have a hodgepodge of different things I'm gonna share with you. And I'm not gonna put it on the screen, you listen, but I'll send it to you afterwards. I'll send it to the group. We'll copies this hopefully. So as I mentioned, there was a very long line of people that wanted to give Divrei Torah. The long line was one. Again, it's not as Aline said, I was not forceful this time. I wasn't. I figure everybody has a lot going on. So Yafit is going to begin. She's gonna go first. I'm gonna, we have to.
It's super short. Okay, so Dennis Prager, as you can see, my husband put Post-its from last year, and it was really great because he pulled pieces out for the Seder. So there's one piece that I loved. It's very short. For discussion, teach children the history and importance of freedom. In 4 different verses, the Torah instructs parents to tell their children about the Exodus and how God made it possible. That this command is stated 4 times clearly implies that the Torah considers it one of the utmost importance to teach one's children about the Exodus and therefore about the importance of freedom. Jonathan Sacks wrote, "To defend a country, you need an army, but to defend a civilization, you need education. That is why Moses, who according to Rousseau was the world's greatest architect of a free society, spoke about the duty of parents in every generation to educate their children about why freedom matters and how it was achieved. Freedom begins with what we teach our children. That is why Jews became a people whose passion is education, whose heroes are teachers, and whose citadels are schools. Nowhere is this more evident than on Passover, when the entire ritual of handing our story to the next generation is set in motion by the questions asked by a child. In every generation, we need to cultivate afresh the habits of the heart that Tocqueville called the apprenticeship of liberty."
All right.
I thought it was cool.
Well done. See that? I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, I'm just trying to. I have a lot of things swirling in my head right now. There's a lot of Pesach going on. So what I want to do, we had our men's club event last time. I'm going to share you a couple of pieces from that. But first, this was just sent to me. So the Rabbi Sacks Foundation, and they send out Divrei Torah all the time, every single week. And right, it's Purim v'Nahapachu. Wrong holiday.
Yeah.
And so yesterday they actually just sent this out, and it's good prompts for the Seder. I'll put it in when I send the recording. I'll put it on the chat as well. On the email, the body of what this is supposed to do. But basically, they give you cards. It's these cards that you can cut up, and it gives you something to read before each step. Read this card before Kiddush. Read this card after Kiddush, etc. And it gives you the answers at the end. So if you actually they have pre-made prompts for Pesach. So I printed these for you if you'd like them. I think it's really kind of really neat. So for instance, the question of what are the sets of 4s in the Haggadah? How many can you find? Why do you think there's so many sets of 4s within the structure of the Haggadah? So if you, in my family, we grew up, we had 4 children. So you can imagine that when we get to the 4 sons, always, it was a lot of finger pointing.
We also have 4 sons.
So
my father is one of 4 brothers.
So you can imagine it's always good fun. Of course, then there's everybody says that, no, it's like, that's a piece of every single child. Everybody has a little bit of Chacham, a little bit of Russia. Some have a little bit more Russia, some have a little bit more Tom, whatever it might be. Anyway, so I thought this is a really good prompt. On Shabbos, when Erica did her session in the rain so I actually saved some for handouts as well. I'm going to give it to you. Tips and tricks for Seder to remember. I'm going to give you each this. Again, if you don't want it, just don't want it. But don't do it in front of me because it hurts my feelings. This is worth going through just a couple of items on here. Again, I'm going to do it out loud so for people that are online. So she did, I think there's 10 steps here. Some again, different things speak to different people. We'll see that's one of the insights I had for Diana that I'm going to share. You lead with questions. We just talked about questions. Make it personal. 15 prompts that can help guide you in sharing the story with your family. So again, I'll send this to you after as well, but it's kind of fill in the blanks. My most memorable Passover was a Passover food I've always loved is I miss having so-and-so at our Seder because it's especially tough. Let's say if you're in a year of Avelos, or if there's someone in the family that's normally there that can't make it this year or whatever it might be, or if you have a close friend, something like that. It's always good to reflect. And she'll write here later, this is actually a practice that we started years ago, is that we would put pictures on the table of loved ones who aren't here anymore. And do you remember the years ago, they used to leave an empty chair, for Soviet troops, right? Things like that. So for your own family, to have pictures on the table, to have them with you. It's a nice idea to put pictures of your loved ones on the table. What part of the Pesach ritual or the Seder ritual is your favorite, or you could say what's your least favorite. The biggest key always, and I say this all the time, and it needs to be reiterated, is that you have to understand your crowd. You have to know because first of all, Seder 1, Seder 2 may be very different depending on who's there. Are you leading? Are you a guest somewhere? Do you have the ability to say something? And you have to do something that will speak to your audience. And I would always recommend that clean one less carpet and spend time, if you know who your guests are in advance, send them something in advance that they can share. It's not fair to put somebody on the spot, but if you send it to them, a week ahead of time and say, here, I'd love you to look at this and think about it and maybe say something about it like that. I don't think that's unreasonable. And again, it causes people to be engaged, and you want to engage people, and not everybody's engaged by a Hebrew Dvar Torah. Not everybody's engaged by a long passage in an English Dvar Torah. Some people might want illustrations. Some people might want songs. Some people might want questions. Some people might want to just ask a question without having an answer. So there's lots of avenues of approach. And when these prompts here, I think are very, very helpful when you say, okay, what's your favorite part of the Seder? Or what's your least favorite part of the Seder? Or what part of the Seder do you do best? What part of the Seder are you like, not so much? Okay, so we had a lot of interesting answers to that. Next year in Jerusalem reminds me of my own relationship to Israel. Let me tell you about it. Lots to talk about in Israel. Hallel, I celebrate my Jewishness. Diana, what am I grateful for? Okay, and lots of prompts here. The number 3 here, again, pick a new focus. So here she broke it down, like what are the parts of the Seder that you do really well and what don't you do well, and maybe let's try and improve in one area that we don't normally do well. Right. So if I would ask the question here, like what part of the Seder do you do really well? And what do you not do so well?
We have a hard time keeping people for the end. We lose people.
So a lot of people think that the Seder ends after benching. They're like, what? There's a whole other part after that? I had no idea.
Well, it's just hard to get them back.
Hard to get them back. Okay. We have a practice. Again, it depends on who's there, but if we try, it doesn't always work, but we try to have one Seder with just our family, our immediate family. And we, after benching, we leave the table and we do the rest of the Seder in the living room.
This is the
pajama type of thing. If you want pajamas, optional. I mean, you have to be dressed, but pajamas are optional. Okay, let's be clear about that. But this way we can, and also me, of course, I'm worried about wine spilling on the carpet. But okay, but you could just imagine. But it's really has changed the dynamic in the family to such an incredible way, because people are like, wow, like you could it to take some of the formality out of this formal thing is really, really important. And to be able to, okay, hit the button. So it's really, it's something or something like that. Okay. People love the songs.
You sing. Mimi, should we go to the living room?
No. The food will be spilled everywhere.
After benching.
בסדר. בסדר. We love to sing, Rabbi.
I'm gonna remove you. I'm removing you. Where do you want to, what do you want to report? I don't want to tell you. I'll tell you later. Like, don't report. Okay, don't report. It's like, who do you want to report? Like, what does she do? Yeah. So the songs, like the songs, and by the way, you're not limited. By the way, the songs that are in the Haggadah.
נכון? We sing שירי אביב בהתחלה. נכון, שלי? כן, כן.
My husband likes.
We love to sing. The spirit is wonderful. And אחד מי יודע and דיינו, I'm telling you, the ceiling goes למעלה.
Right? I take one of these and use yeah.
Like, practically speaking, what do you do about not spilling wine on the carpet?
So-
It sounded a good idea, but like.
So if you know me, like my car never has to be clean for Pesach. It just doesn't. My wife's car, it's like Paul Ritter doesn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? He's like, what'd you do here? I'm very, I'm not like Meshuggah. I just
Rabbi does not involve food.
the what?
Riding with the rabbi does not involve
No.
sex.
Pass.
Wow.
Because you can't eat, you can't talk with your mouth, your mouth full. Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, and looking, you gotta be careful. We have, things, whatever.
Accidents happen.
They do, and they have happened. And I have, as part of my growth mode, I've learned how to deal and cope with it.
Maybe that's your hardest part of
That is, it is. I'd say a lot of some of the answers you got, some people have a hard time. They think that, let's say when you finally get to Motzi Matzah, you kind of like blow right through it, just so we can get to the meal. Like Motzi Matzah Mar Karach.
Yeah.
And you're doing it. And then of course, if you're blessed to ever have a kid that comes back from yeshiva with the sheets and they're measuring, you're not doing it right, and this and that, I need more matzah, the shiurim, all that. But it can kind of get smushed into one blob of like crumbs. That's another thing that I have a hard time dealing with. All the crumbs leaning.
Oh.
I used to have a special shirt that I would wear at the Seder just to get like all the stuff on it, because this is therapy. This is good. Nope, neither, just me anyway.
What do you mean by singing other songs?
So let's say Hallel. And Hallel, so say, oh, I like this tune for Odecha. I like this tune for Odecha. Or if they have some sort of family song, sometimes people have family songs. They have traditional songs that are related to Pesach or Yom Tif that people like to sing, and therefore do it as part of the Magid portion. You have Hallel and Magid, or like we do the Hisha Amda. No, we're going to do this one. We have to do Shweki tune. We do both. And you gotta know your crowd, you gotta know your balance. Now, I don't, if you say like, oh, we have to say, we're gonna stop every other word in Magid, and we're gonna ask a question, and everybody's gonna take out the sheets, and everybody's gonna read their Dvar Torahs that they got, you'll never get anywhere. There's plenty of time to do that during the meal. Share Divrei Torah during the meal, share questions and answers during the meal. So you could say like, we're gonna be efficient during Magid, not expeditious. We're going to be efficient. And then we're going to spend more time. That's called Hamar B'Harei Zeh Mishubach. We're going to spend more time during the meal. By the way, why do you think, and to talk, and it's important to talk about the family value of yours, if you're at a family Seder, to talk about kind of like, where is our family going? Like, what do we stand for, kind of thing? What does Pesach mean to you? And again, that's a very loaded question, because in everybody's family, nobody's the same. Some of them, you have to have them whether you like it or not, right? That's just the reality. But so and it should never ever be a burden. It should be exciting. Like I one of my great parenting wins, there's like 3 of them, is that my kids can't wait for Pesach. Ask them what their favorite Yom Tov is, they say Pesach. They love the Seder, they can't wait to do it. So so if you build it up, it's an event. This is a chavaya. This is something that we want to be excited for, which is why all the preparation should be done now. I know, and you guys, you kill yourselves to make sure everything is prepared and done, and I know that. And the men are sometimes by and large useless when it comes to these things. So and a lot falls on you, but that you can be the bearers of the Torah and the content, not just other things, right? And I think so.
So my brother, Andrew. Right?
Yeah, of course.
So my brother-in-law, even though the kids are now a little older, he has costumes for throughout the Seder. So he's Paro at one point. He's the Seth at one point. He does his old, but he just keeps pulling them out just to keep things like that. My father, at some point in the beginning of Magid, he takes I guess it's not the Afikoman, it's the other one, but he puts it on his back and he starts singing in Mitzrayim and goes all around the house. It's a good diversion. It gets them up.
Right.
Adults do it, kids do it, like just things to kind of.
Right. It's a well-known Sephardic custom. A lot of people do that. They walk around with the matzah, but they actually reenact Yetzias Mitzrayim. If you look at number 5, it's really exactly invest in costume, shtick, or toys. And what Eric also suggested is, I think we could upgrade from the plastic frogs. There's something called Amazon.com, and you could probably get some really good stuff.
Just
So I'll share
Yeah.
something that we do actually. I have maybe about you. So we have a mystery box you put on the table. with
Oh,
little
I have that.
objects, and I
No, it
love
was Friendship Circle.
Was it friendship? Circle?
Friendship Circle. We
That-
still use it.
We
Great
still use
with the
it.
questions.
No,
Oh.
with objects, and the object can be an obvious one, like the frog is obvious. An object could be a piece of Lego, anything. It can be a wagon, anything that somehow will relate. It can be a snake, like Moshe the snake, and at different points, adults too have to point something out
Right.
and say what it's about. I have a lot of kids and a lot of people that don't know that much, so it's actually for us, it's a good.
Right.
It's
Any
a good-
prompt.
That it's excellent.
No, I expect no less.
Daughter made up.
So yours
yourself.
sounds.
So
yours-
the
yours-
Friendship Circle did a box similar to the question,
so we have
similar to
questions
this.
in the
Right.
box.
It was questions there for the box that we take out every now and then. Abigail years ago made up Pesach bingo. So she hand drew like all these different, so when it comes to a certain part of the Seder, if you have a wine cup during Kaddish, then you put a paper clip, whatever we're giving out as the things, chocolate lentils, whatever on your thing.
Marshmallows very popular.
Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? But it just, I kept all this when our kids were in kindergarten. Okay, and the nursery school at Suburban, they had I kept all that stuff. So that all that comes out
I think I
again.
should put 2 boxes.
Esser
one
Maka.
hard box and one tall box.
Yeah.
People can choose.
Pesach Jeopardy, right? Pinchi, you said he does Pesach Jeopardy, and he did that. Yeah. Yeah. And also said the cards, like I've done this, you could write your own, but if you take these cards, if you put it under somebody's plate and say, and just go, no, it's okay, could you read the next card?
Yeah.
So there are people who are less comfortable being involved, but if you give them an easy way out, and if you prepare them in advance and say, by the way, here, just and again, who's going to have such a trouble? I mean, unless you really have someone who's so introverted, who's going to have a trouble saying, what are the sets of 4s in the Haggadah? How many can you find? Why do you think there's so many sets of 4s within the structure of the Haggadah? Yeah, and you can make up your own questions and say, and again, you have a reward system, you have points, you have this and that. Does anybody know great grandma's Hebrew name? I know you know the one.
It's a prompt question. I'm saying it's a good prompt.
Oh,
question.
okay.
No, it is a good question.
Because
Did
most
you know them?
most people will not be able to,
Okay.
right? And that's pretty much plays into the whole thing we're talking about. Wait, Yetzias Mitzrayim happened to us. So wait, they're only 3 generations, but they have this too. Okay.
Even looked up online, one of these like old man grandpa Pesach joke lists. Some of them are really funny. Some are like, oh, you've reached that status.
Yeah, oh,
And
they're
he-
special.
He doles them out based on what's going on at the Seder. Like, he feels people are worthy of a good joke. We'll share one. And the kids are like, have another one. He's like, tell me something first, or something like that.
The songs, number 6 here, she has a bunch of songs. If you look online, also there are a ton of these sort of parody songs, if that's your thing. She did her own. She actually, this one, the Bob Marley, she wrote. Erica wrote this. No Pharaoh, no lies. No Pharaoh, no lies. Okay. If you're a big Bob Marley fan, I'm a big fan. Invested in new Haggadah every year. There's so many things that are out there. I do this and I try to bring new things every year. Have everyone bring an object of meaning to the Seder, pictures on the table, which I mentioned. And then, of course, this year, Israel's 75th. We do this anyway. We sing Hatikva always at the end of the Seder. But if we're going to sing Hatikva this year, particularly for the 75th, it would be extremely meaningful. So again, these are just, some prompts, some ideas, and that. So I wanted to, so then it came up at the session that I don't know if a lot of people have the Holocaust narrative in the Seder. Does it come up a lot? Right.
Oh, no, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, the second night is the.
So here, so Boaz Brickman, he said that, yeah, every year we do this thing for the Warsaw Ghetto. It was from the Canadian Jewish Congress, and
Yeah.
he found it and gave me a
That's
copy of it.
amazing.
And it says like, after the third of the four ceremonial cups, just before the doors open for the symbolic entrance of the prophet Elijah, there are three parts. First, everybody rises and the leader of the Seder recites the following in Hebrew and then in English, or Hebrew, and then the second part is English. And the third part is this thing, Ani Mamen. So if you want to look at this, I have these here, and it's the second part was just it's our campaign that we're doing, but it actually has, I didn't put in, it gave the sheet music also, but it's like about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. So if you're interested in that, if you want to see that, you can take that. And this is what this is what I gave out last night. I wanted to share a couple of pieces from here, from our men's club event last night. Feel free to take these and look through them. There is a phenomenal piece by Rabbi Sachs in here. And it's really something. So the theme this year is retelling the Exodus on Seder night with pride. We live in a period of such anti-Semitism, and we're kind of like making excuses for being Jewish. And I think that we need to be much prouder of and feeling privileged of our Yiddishkeit. And I think that the Seder night is a perfect opportunity to do so. So the first part in it, I have it in one of the great books written about Rav Goren. They wrote it in Hebrew and then in English. It's an autobiography, and it was translated. It's really good because he was such an interesting character, Rav Goren. But he was a lover of Israel, and he was the chief rabbi of the army. So he writes. There's one chapter, and I have part of the excerpt of the chapter here about when he wrote an IDF Haggadah in 1953, and there are many. So you imagine this new state, and they're constantly facing threats. And he decides he has to write a Haggadah, and he has a question there: how can we write? Last year we were slaves. This year we're free. It's like, next year, and it's like we're here. We have our own state of Israel. It's really something. So he writes how he addressed that, and some clever things. That one year that they had the Seder at the Air Force Base, and they had just shot down 6 Syrian MiGs. And when they came to who knows 6, they said Shisha Sidrei Misha, and then they said 6 MiGs. Okay, that's from the first Top Gun MiGs. Anyway, so here he writes, I put in here also in page 3 in my crooked thing, he has Birchat Harav Rashi. So listen to this. This is really something. And it's not a great print, but I actually found this Haggadah online, and it looks like this. I mean, how is that for beautiful artwork? Right? It's like this just screams like, oh yeah, okay. I would have done it a little differently, but it's so it says Haggadah shel Pesach lechaylei tzva Haganah Yisrael. Tafshin Gimel. Okay, so that's 1953 or so, and Hotzar Rabbanut Hatzvait HaRashit. Okay, so this is publication, but it is available online. I was able to find it and take the excerpts and violate every copyright rule I could. Anyway, so here's the bracha that he says. He says, Amis Kadesh Elin Chag Pesach Chag Cherut VaGeula Shlucha B'Zeh Birchati Chalei Tzva Haganah Yisrael B'Chol Makom Shehem V'Yabashem B'Rayam. He says, I want to give my blessing to all the Chayalim. Zochim anu lachog atat chag. I thought it should say cherut. It says perot, but I thought it should be cherut. Maybe it's a typo. I don't know. Cherut v'hadror. I think cherut makes more sense. It says perot, but it should be cherut. The holiday of freedom. Be'eretz mishucheret uftuyah. Maybe Pedut. Oh, Pedut. Ah, yes. That's better. Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, I can't. It's not such a great print. Thank you. Right.
Yes.
Okay, Rav Goren. I'm sorry. I apologize. I went to visit his grave. By the way, his grave. He's buried on Har Zeisim. I went to go visit his grave. Anyway, okay, good. Thank you. I'm such a doofus. and maybe he's making fun of my Hebrew. I'm trying to read it like so you'll understand it. You know what I'm saying? Because I would read it. Okay, but rather it's mitoch shira chadasha, shirat shechur tkumat am geulim p'tuyei Hashem. Like we have this new state, new redemption. Ora geula shofia b'shmei Yisrael b'machashvei shibu Mitzrayim v'asher kamod eish halach lefnei am mechom asot ki b'shav zorem mechadash moladteinu ha'mshechret v'afia aleinu b'nitzchonot hazor b'gvurot milchamet ha'shechrur b'arteinu ha'kedosha. Like, stemming from the Exodus from Egypt and all the subjugation. Look at this, all this unbelievable. We have this new land and it's free. And we see that the victories that we've had in our land. He says, look at what you've done. Look what you've done through the sanctifying God's name. This unbelievable victory you've had. Berosh Marom Harim. He says, and eventually we'll have the Bias Beis HaMikdash, and he was very messianic as well. But you imagine that, like to be able to print that. Now for us, it's like, oh yeah, but in 1953, and he writes about how there was all the heads of state and all the big Knackers, they all wanted to go to the IDF Seders. They had the biggest one. And they would have all sorts of deals they would make, for Afikoman, and really, really good. So it's nice to talk, and you want to talk about if Israel is a big part of your conversation. Israel is, this type of thing. So it's really good. Okay. The next page on page 4. So there's this diagram. Again, I think Rav Goren's grandson maybe grew these. I don't know, but this is a great thing. So here, not everybody speaks to. Not everybody relates to text, okay? All right, so here's why I want to put Mimi on the spot, okay? This is the Brady Bunch, okay? So you see, Alice is in the middle with Shvo Chamatcha, okay? So starting with Mr. Brady, okay? And go clockwise. Tell me who you think it is. Already, we're starting with the excuses, okay?
ממש, לא, זה ממש קטנצ'יק.
Okay, so you'll send it. I feel bad I don't have it on. So the first one is there's a guy holding a harp with a skull under his foot. David HaMelech, obviously, okay? He's the harp, okay? Then if you go clockwise, menorah, Maccabee, and then you go down, you have a chayal, a regular chayal, and then you have a chayelet, but it's more like the kibbutznik chayelet, like she's got the shmat, okay? And then you go to bottom center. That's a good one. It's a little not so easy. Yes, good, very good. Tomer Devorah, very good, because Devorah, we know she's what? Oh, somebody wrote it already? Okay, let's see. That's good. See, not everybody took it home. That's what you got, somebody. Okay, Devorah, and then comes here. Yeah, very good.
Me?
No.
What'd you say? Did she cut his head off? Yael.
Correct. Yael Eshet Chever Hakeni. Who'd she kill? Sisra. She killed Sisra. That's how we have. Right. That's why we have 100 sounds of the shofar. Okay. This one I think was the trickiest one, but it's very, very clever. You got to look at it very carefully.
מה יש לה תוף? מה זה? לא רואים, זה מריה? אי אפשר לראות. אי אפשר לראות את הפרטים. Tell me what she has.
לא, כן אפשר.
Closer.
What hand
closer
is
to
he
the-
holding the knife in? Right? Gidon and Ehud, like the whole story when he kills Eglon with his left hand. Remember George Costanza? Can't go left. And then finally on top is and this we should all know, especially in this shiur. We didn't get to that part yet.
מרים, עם התוף.
Joshua. Yeshua. See, I knew we would talk about Yeshua today.
Why is this
The sun, Hashem Shpegivon Dome, and the sun and the moon. Okay. Anyway, that's like pretty cool. So like the history of the heroes, you bring something out like this, and it starts discussion, and then you say, who are your Jewish heroes today? Everybody, can you name me a Jewish hero? Do you have a Jewish hero? Right? they could always do the famous sort of college essay interview question. If you could meet anyone in Jewish history, like that's a little too much. But now, who's a modern day Jewish hero? Now, this is also, of course, talking from a military standpoint, because this is a military Haggadah and this is a battle thing, but it doesn't have to be in that arena. We could have in the arena of Torah, in the arena of inspiration, of family member, who got us where. Okay, I'm not going to go through it now, but I promise you it is worth reading from Rabbi Sachs. And the pages that I have in the underlines here about what it means to, like, what's the whole purpose of Jewish continuity? How do we ensure it? And he quotes from different non-Jewish people who observed in the Holocaust, and they said that the best way to ensure your kids won't be Jewish is to raise them on a steady and solid and only diet of Holocaust narrative. Because if you just tell them, everybody try to kill us, and then the whole reason I'm alive is just so they won't kill us, then the best way to escape anti-Semitism is to not be Jewish. So in other words, you need more than that. And he says that the best way, and it's one of the most telling, he says that you would think intuitively that the holidays that would be the easiest to keep are the ones that are the most observed. But the opposite is true. When is the largest attendance in shul? What day of the year? Yom Kippur, which is the hardest day of the year. Because if you want Jews to survive, you want them to value something, it has to cost something. It's unbelievable. Read those passages. I have it all underlined there.
I'm reading this book right now. I just got
it's like mamish. It's like my Rebbe J.J. Shack would say, this is gold. It's really, it's gold. It's so, and it speaks to every different type of person, and make it possible for Jews to give. If you want to know the strength of the Jewish people, ask them to give and then count their contributions. Okay. That's that. Okay. Then also I have, this is a new guy from Rabbi Rosner. Rabbi Rosner came out. Rabbi Rosner was a friend, a colleague of mine. He started a community in Beit Shemesh. He's perhaps best well known these days by everybody in diaspora for his Daf Yomi Shiur. He gives a Daf Yomi Shiur online every day. So it's on page in the booklet. It's page 11, and the way that Koren prints it, you'd like it goes backwards. But anyway, so Lashon Haba Ba'arad Yisrael. Why do we start the Seder with Lashon Haba? Why? And we sing it at the end as well. And how do we feel it? So he talks about position versus direction. Is that if we think about where we are, we're going to get stuck. But if we think about where we want to be, where we want to go, I talked about this on Rosh Hashanah last year, trajectory is very, very important. So he gives the example of someone who's in prison knowing he's going to be free tomorrow versus someone who's very much free now, but knowing he's going to be indicted or possibly indicted, or maybe depending on what the Attorney General thinks of the day after. Who's more free? Who feels better? The person knowing that he's going to be free. So like if we're thinking L'shana Baba Ard Yisrael, and he says also, he gives an unbelievable zushtel, which is a comparison where on Yom Kippur night, when I go back to Yom Kippur night, we say at the top of our lungs, Baruch Shem Kivah Machusol Le'olam Va'ed. He says, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach asked, shouldn't we do that at the end? Like after we've come through Slicha, Mechila, Kapara, that's what we should cry out, thank you, Hashem. But he says, tell me, what are you thinking of Yom Kippur night? Yom Kippur night, when you get to shul, first of all, it's the most uncomfortable time in shul for everybody because they're like dreading it. But you're thinking like, I'm going to say all the al-Chait, so I'm going to do this. You're thinking about Yom Kippur. But what are you thinking about when Yom Kippur is over? You thinking about Yom Kippur? No, I got to heat up the pasta. I got to make sure, did I get orange juice? Where are we going for whose house are we going to again? Like, where's my car keys? Like all these types of things. We're thinking about anything but Yom Kippur. It's like we could think of, we made it. Thank God we made it. And especially if you're not a good faster, okay, really, really rough. So it always, that's why we say Baruch Shem Kavod at the beginning, because it's about where we're heading. It's a perfect opportunity, again, to talk about the family narrative. Last year, I talked about making a family mission statement, but to talk about your family narrative and say, where are we heading? Like, what is our hashkafa? What is our outlook? Like, what do you see in store for us for the next year? What do you see as our goals? It could be religiously, it could be Torah-wise, it could be morally, it could be ethically, it could be, I wouldn't say politically, I wouldn't get in that. But in other words, like what is it that, and find those common threads, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. Try and find that common thread that says, like, year after year, we're coming sitting at the table, like what is it that binds us together and brings us forward? And if again, this a few years ago, they still make it. This, Stand With Us. So Stand With Us, they do great advocacy work. If you want to find their main office, if you go to the King David Hotel, and go across the street to the YMCA and go a little bit to the left, and there's a nice jewelry store there. Behind that jewelry store is where Stand With Us headquarters is. Okay, just so you know. So this is taken from there. If you can order them, by the way, and I think if you buy 10, they give you a few for free or something. But especially today, you want to talk about anti-Semitism. But this also kind of goes through in the pictures. I'll just show you kind of like it has these this picture, and it goes through history, it's like a microcosm of Jewish history. But also it has modern day going all the way to Ilan Ramon in the last slide. Again, it goes around clockwise. They're numbered, thank God. And then this is good. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen by the time Pesach comes, but in the last slide, 17, Israel, the startup nation, is democratic, diverse, and dynamic. So you can do with that what you want. Now, no, this is old. Fourth. It went up to fourth. Went up to fourth because this one was made. It just came. Israel's now moved up to fourth happiest place in the world.
Wow.
Which you would think that people think that Israel's like a burning cauldron of just like hell, but this one, this one was done 2018, so we've come a long way in 5 years, like Virginia Slims. Thank God you got that. Thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure. You know what?
I don't know that one.
That was their slogan. Is
Yes, you do.
you've come a long way, baby.
I think you're too young for.
I'm too young. My
Yes.
mind is a steel trap for the amount of nonsense you cannot even begin to imagine. Okay. Now now has anyone not seen this picture before?
That circulated last year.
Every year, and it was published in. I have to give a big nod to Miriam here. It was published in here, of course. You know the NCS. Yeah, well, you're the head of NCSY. You run NCSY would not be NCSY without you, obviously. So this is also a fantastic Haggadah, and if you ask Miriam, I bet she cannot get you a discount on one, or maybe I don't know. They don't. They stop.
Download them on the NCSY website.
Oh, really? It's downloadable. It's not even. Oh, so I'll find the link. Maybe I'll add that to the chat when I get to it. But it has, first of all, it's just aesthetically, like, it's so nice pages, not a lot, one thing on a page, but it has like the famous Bruce Feiler article about, the history of your family, and it has some really good prompts. If you have people that are, the 4 sons are usually like stuffed into a corner, but like if you have like 2 pages and you have your 4 sons like this, okay, it's really, really very, very well done. David did this, right? He did most, yeah. So David Bashevkin, and he's just great. And it's just like, it's like glossy pages, and it's just nice. Has cute cartoons, really, really well done. So from here, and of course, this is the famous picture of the Posner family, that they had this menorah in Kiel, and then like opposite, of course, you see the swastika across the street. They saved this menorah, and they still light this menorah in Israel at Hayom Hazeh. This is a perfect opportunity in your family to talk about the things in your family.
Rabbi, Shelley has Haggadot from different cultures, and the ציורים, all the ציורים הצבאיים are like this. Shelley, נכון? כל מיני מדינות. אז כל הגדה, התוכן הוא זהה, אבל התמונות הן מתרבויות יהודים.
That series of Haggadot, I think.
What? I would love to take a class trip. Of course, Mimi. That's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you. Thank you. We would love.
When we done?
Wait, Shelley's. It's like a Judaic museum in there. I'm just telling you right now. I once got a tour of
And
the
she
Kiddush
has maybe
cups and the
50
menorahs.
Haggadot.
Oh my God, it was phenomenal. I'm like, I need more time. So this is a great opportunity to talk about, is there anything at your Seder table that comes from a previous generation or even beyond? And more important than that, if you have children, if you have grandchildren at the Seder, ask them, if you could choose, I'm not talking about jewelry and I'm not talking about, if you could choose like a ritual item from our house, like what was it that you would want? Right? Right? No, you can't have it. This one, yes. No, I'm saying, but, and then it's an opportunity to discuss these things. So in my family, we have, like I have some things, my siblings have some things. I have a kosher Eliyahu that we use as I had a kid growing up. And again, my parents didn't come from a strong Jewish background. So the fact that they had this sort of like, it's like a starting family heirloom. And it's not your typical kosher Eliyahu. Like I was in Grand Sterling in Borough Park. And they have these kosher Eliyahu. It's like a vat. You need like a barrel of wine to fill that up. Like I don't know, like what do you do with it? Who uses it? It's ours is a royal blue crystal cup. You can imagine where that gets stored. I mean, oh my God, that's but it's beautiful, and that's our kosher Eliyahu. Why my parents? I don't know, but that when I see that, I see myself as a 5-year-old. Which, by the way, every time I look in the mirror, I see myself as a 5-year-old, but that's a whole other problem. The plates. So talk even things like it's so because the Seder is it's not a plastic night. This is a night we bring out everything, but you have to bring out everything in the family because the whole idea is transmitting values from generation to generation. And it's not just what happened in Mitzrayim, but what happened in our family. In our family, this is the tune that we sang, and this is the recipe that we used, and this is the Haggadah that we used, and this is the weird custom that we had. It's all part of it. And I guess it would be good to talk about some anti-Semitism or something. But I think more than ever, this just on page 16, this is from the Haggadah Meir Panim, which is from Rav Goldvicht, which just came out recently in the last couple of years. Rav Goldvicht is amazing. And it says, Shelo echad bilvad amar aleinu. So look at the reading. He says, we say because it's not just one that got up, but really every generation someone tries to kill us. Okay, that we can all identify. Yeah, okay. Who's trying to kill us this week? Who's our own worst enemy? Ourselves. Look how he writes this. Look at this beautiful art. Shelo echad. Kiva shanachnu lo meuchadim, l'chein hagayim amdu v'omdim aleinu l'chaloteinu. And this is, if ever was more pertinent than right this minute in Jewish history that's unfolding by the second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where you stand on any issue. It's irrelevant. But to see what's happening, and what do you think our enemies see? They see tremendous weakness. They see opportunity. Oh, you guys can't get along? I'm going in the back door. Shelo echad. And even at people at your table who have probably different views, different levels of observance, different takes on things. You know what? Let's figure out what unites us. Let's find what is it that binds us together. Where's the achdut? Let's find one thing. Like let's find one thing we agree on, which at some tables is easier than others. There's always I always get the question of, I have a relative, they're married, should I invite them or not invite them? What do I do? How do I handle it? All these, we could find common ground. Let's find something that everybody can use together. So that's Shelo echad. And he actually has and Rabbi Rosner has it in a later piece here on Shvuch Chamatcha also, because it changes to Ki achal Yaakov et Nevei Hishamu. It's on page 20. It switches from Rishon Rabim to Rishon Yachid. It says Rabim, and it says Ki achal in the singular. Why Ki achal at Yaakov? Because there's one thing that non-Jews can agree upon. That's one time they get along, right? Your best friend's enemy is my best friend's friend, whatever it is. But in other words, if they all hate us, that's when there's achdut. That's when they could find it.
I'm rereading The Promise. Do you remember The Promise?
Chaim Potter?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, like the inner fighting.
Yeah.
There.
And who do you think of though when you think of The Chosen, really?
Well, I didn't.
Robbie Benson. Yes,
I didn't
very
reread
good.
that. I didn't reread The Chosen.
But the movie, Robbie Benson. Oh, it's gewaldig.
It's not just the same generation, it's a shared brain when it comes to
Gewaldig. Oh. Okay, so the last thing I want to share with you. Lauren. Yes. Michael Landon. He went from Bonanza to that. Okay. So sometimes did this ever happen to you that you have something and you don't realize or you don't remember that you have something and then you find that something, you're like, Oh my gosh, I almost forgot about this. So last year I got this Haggadah. I show it to you. Now, this is not one that you will find in any store here. Okay, it's Israeli. It's very Israeli, and it says, Le'ili Nishpat Chavireni Gibor Yisrael Rasan Eliraz Peretz. So last year, when Miriam Peretz was here, and of course, she talks extensively about her two sons that she lost. And I've been in touch with her many, many times. She's an unbelievable individual. And when I was in Israel and I took my daughter to visit the graves, they're actually buried right near one another. And I told her, and from there, and she was so touched. And she gave me this as a gift for staying for Shabbos. And you're right. Like, you ever give a book to somebody? It's a nice gift, by the way. If you want it for Pesach, give somebody Haggadah.
Yeah.
A nice book. And what do you write? You're like, oh, hi, thanks for having me. Happy
I sent it
Pesach.
through Amazon.
Right. Or they get the little paper in it. You didn't even write it. Okay. Happy Pesach, happy Passover. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Enjoy your
So this is the inscription that she wrote. Now there's inscriptions and there's inscriptions. So look what she writes here. Okay. I mean, it's like, you see, B'chukosai 2022, right? Yitzchak Shmuel Yakar Banit Sarah Yakara, B'chol Dor Vador, okay? Vanai Urieva Eliraz Hemdor Hamshech Liotzimi Mitzrayim. My sons, these are her sons who died. They are the continuity of those who left Egypt. Heim Lachmu Vanaflu, B'krav Al Ganat Maladet Al Zakotenu Liopnei Charin. Right? They fell on the battlefield. And we could be free, right? Rucham Ruach Ahavat Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael v'Torah Yisrael Mamshicha. Their spirit, the spirit of loving the people of Israel, the land of Israel, the Torah of Israel, it continues. Ani moda lachem she'atem mamshichim beruach zu. I mean, that's a bracha. I hope you should continue. Toda la'orach nafla b'Shabbat. Hakadosh Baruch Hu yigmol lachem b'tova b'ava Miriam Peretz. I mean, wow. So I took there's a lot of biographical information about her son. So her son, who studied in Chalutza. Chalutza is, I don't describe Chalutza to people. Most people don't know what Chalutza is. Chalutza is like Sofa Alam v'az Smola, as they say. So the southwesternmost part of Israel today. So it's like on one side you have Gaza, on the other side you have Egypt. It's like really, and it's all like land. There's a town there called Bnei Nitzarim, which the people from Nitzarim in Gaza moved there. And like they actually offered it to Yasser Arafat in a deal, in a swap deal. And he's like, is this a trick? It's all sand. Now what you see there, besides communities, is that they built these gorgeous greenhouses and they make beautiful fruit, esrogim, what they were able to do with hydroponics and sand. I don't know what all these kind of Israelis. Okay, so there's also a mechina there, which is a pre-army yeshiva. It's one of the finest in the country, and the reason why it's the finest is because the kids go there. There's nothing to do. The nearest thing is like Ofakim, which is about an hour away. So if you want pizza, like you got to be committed to it. You know what I mean? So he learned. So Riel learned in the in this yeshiva. I'm sorry, Eliraz learned there, and he was like a bit of a wild child. So they have pictures in it, and they have like when he was young. There's one picture when he was young, which you wouldn't think like, yeah, okay. This is him when he was young. Okay. With like those Jewish dreadlocks like that. Okay. And then look at the picture here. So, and he became like, so he writes, she writes here, or the author, and there's a bit of a hesped from Rafi Peretz. Rafi Peretz was the head rabbi of the Tzavan, was his rebbe also. He was on an operation, and there was a terrorist coming in from Gaza, and somehow they infiltrated and they shot him. And because he was the commander, and he went back and he went back and he went back, but to be a commander, and because his commander, he was shot in his vest, and it hit his grenade, and that killed him because the grenade exploded. But look when it happened. That's why there's a Haggadah. It says here, B'Yud Gimel B'Nisan Tafshin Ayin Erg Chag HaCherut Huva Eliraz Shei Adam Shesimel Al Yoter Mikol Echad V'Echad Et HaCherut V'Chofesh L'Menuchat Olamim. The one who symbolized more than anything freedom and this. So, and she tells the story like he's killed Erev Pesach. She's buried Erev Pesach. She has to have to go make the Seder. Can you imagine that? And it's the second time. She lost her other son. He was married, and it says look at his family's left, and it says his Ishto Shlomit, and he had 4 children. Or Chadash Uriel, one of them actually just had a bar mitzvah. Or Chadash Uriel, so his brother's name was Uriel, they were very, very close. And when he named his first son after his brother, he added the name Or Chadash. I love Israeli names, by the way. There's like, there's nothing like it. I can never get away with it. Halal Miriam, Shir Tzion, and Gili Bat Ami. I mean, those are some good Israeli names. And he has a thing there. But look at this last name, the left column, and he writes also how he was very proud to serve, and he said that he had a custom that whenever they would have the siren on Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, he would stand dutifully by the grave, usually his brother and his mother. She says all the time that she's always torn on Yom HaZikaron. Which son does she stand next to? They're not next to each other. They're about a few meters away. So it's like from here to there is where how far apart the graves are. But you can imagine that it's like, which son do I stand next to, and will he be insulted, kind of thing. And he writes that he would stand and dutifully, but he would never put his head down. He says, no, we have to be proud and not chas v'shalom to take away from the loss, but to be proud. But look at this. And so his wife says that every day he would say this after Kriya Shema at a ketaba. If it's worth it, if we just have people that like internalize and maybe say this. Ana Eli, Hashem, please. Aseh oti kli l'shlichotecha. Let me be a vessel for, to bring your message. B'makom shebo mekanenet sinah, tein li lizra ahava. Where there's hatred, allow me to plant love. B'makom shebo elbon, where people are insulting one another, slicha, let me be a vessel of forgiveness. B'makom shebo choshech or, where there's a place where there's darkness, let me be a vessel for light. The makom shabbat save simcha. Where there's sadness, let me be a vessel of simcha. Right? That's incredible. That's incredible. So so what happened was I got this, and I have like a zillion Haggadahs, and I just stuck this, not even in like this in the shelf, on the bottom shelf. I put it like this on top of the other books. So like when you're standing, you can't see it. And I was looking for something I got on the floor, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this. Because it was since last May, because I don't remember anything. I can remember like what TV show was on Thursday night at 8 p.m. In the 80s on Channel 7, Dynasty. Dynasty actually was 9 o'clock. Sorry, it was Dynasty, then Knots Landing. And Knots Landing sometimes was Friday night. But anyway, and then I'm like, wow, like Mamash Matana was such a gift. And I'm gonna speak with her, on the art site. But no, it was done by the yeshiva, and the head of the yeshiva's name was Eli Adler. Is really, really, really something. And he died on Shabbos HaGadol. So, yeah, these are some things I hope will help. I'll send you what I have, and send it to you.
The Bowen one also, the Salah one.
Oh yeah. The whole Haggadah, absolutely, yeah. So it'll just take me some time because
I think I have the Haggadah of Rabbi Mordechai Piron. He was the rabbi when I was a soldier. If I find it, I'll give it to you.
I'd love to see. Well, Shelley gave me the Haggadah from the kibbutzniks. Or you gave it to me, or Barbara gave it to me. Barbara, yeah. Oh, that's great.
זה שומר הצעיר. No, I'm
Yeah. No.
שומר הצעיר זה...
Lechem b'tev. It's all good. You know what? It's everything. It's all good. So, but and this Shabbos HaGadol. So what I'm focusing on actually is, and it's always like, I don't know the topic, but I'm trying to find the strength of the individuals. And again, everything that I'm thinking about now is clouded in what's happening in the world today, and like where can we find hope in individuals? And I think that hopefully we'll find that helpful as well. That's this Shabbos. We're going to do it after Shachar. So we will not meet next week because I'm going to be knee deep in steel wool and things like that. But everybody should have a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. We should all have meaningful Sidurim. In which where we can connect with those who maybe maybe feel a little more distant from us, but also to unite and strengthen those who are already with us. And it should be a point where we say, you know what, I can't wait for Pesach. Can be waiting.
We are saying it.
All right. Take care.
Thank you very much.